Parks and Environment Committee of Community Board 7. I am Natasha Kazmi, and with me is Daria Kim, my co-chair, along with our entire committee, or most people from the committee. And tonight we are joined for the first item on our agenda. We are joined by the Preservation Committee as well, so welcome everybody. From there, I wanted to make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
I second you.
Everybody in agreement? Yeah. Okay, great. Great. Just one item of housekeeping. Just before the start of the meeting, we had a small social for our committee. We have a lot of food, so everybody please help yourselves. Whether you belong to any committee or not, everybody's welcome, and I hope everybody leaves well fed. So the first item on our agenda is a discussion and potential resolution regarding the Swedish Cottage Marionette Theatre in Central Park, and we have Amy Woodland here with us, who will be presenting.
Great, thanks. I just need to be able to share my.
Yeah, I think have you been?
I think you can just share from that computer. You know, it will be able to work.
I'm just.
Oh, you're getting an error?
I think this is.
Okay. Well,
Oh, there it is. That's not the live. Here's the agenda. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you all for having me. My name is Amy Wooden. I'm with the NYC Parks and the Historic House Trust. I'm doing a tour of bordering community boards of Central Park to present this work at the Swedish Cottage Marionette Theatre. So there are two aspects of our scope that require review by the Landmarks Preservation Commission at a public hearing, and therefore they require a resolution from all of you as well. There is also a component of the scope that requires review by the Public Design Commission, which will require, I believe, the same resolution. But so here we have the Swedish Cottage Marionette Theatre. Its location is in Central Park. It's closest to Central Park West, across the street from the Natural History Museum, in between sort of 79 and 81st Streets when you're looking at pedestrian entrances into the park off Central Park West. Just getting right into the presentation, the first component is the replacement of the existing wood railings with new metal railings. And like I believe I mentioned, maybe I didn't, these two scope components are happening in conjunction with a full building restoration and a full roof restoration. So most of the work is being handled at staff level by LPC. These are two components that do not meet their staff level rules, so they're going to the commission. But all of this should be considered in relation to a full building restoration.
Your two screens don't match. I think one of them.
Oh, this one matches. Thank you for pointing that out. I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah. That's the get out of black.
I think it's just
Different picture.
oh, that one is working. Yes.
That's
Okay.
good.
A mystery for the day. I'll continue. It's not too confusing. Okay. So this is the north facade of the Swedish Cottage. It is the main entrance of the building. The existing condition is on the left, which you can see some pretty major weathering and deterioration of the railing and missing balusters. The photo on the right is one of the few historic photos we have of the building at its initial inception in Philadelphia for a centennial exposition. So this facade sort of remains as true to its historic as it can, but it did get a ramp entrance in the 1980s restoration project for ADA access. So the following slides are really just to sort of state the case and display this narrative that none of the entrances have remained in their historic configuration. We really don't have a standing precedent for, what was historically at the building. As you can see in the photo on the left, the stairs do not have a railing at all, but it does appear that there is someone sitting on a very short sort of railing, along that stair landing. So the design team felt that metal railings were appropriate here, because there is no sort of true historic, condition. And they really will help us in terms of creating a minimal installation with strength and longevity. So these are just, there is, photos detailing the existing condition. Since the 80s restoration, we've also had to install a sort of interior inboard installed railing to comply with ADA, sort of grip dimensional compliance of railings. So the metal railing is small enough and strong enough that we can have one railing serve both functions as a top rail and as an actual grip railing. So we're hoping to cut down on the amount of installation we'd have to do. The wood posts you see in 3 of the 4 photos that have sort of damage at that cap are going to be left in place, restored in place to their original condition. And then the new metal railing will be attached to them. So we're sort of doing a hybrid approach to what the 80s restoration put in and what we feel will be a sort of minimal light touch for these entrances.
Do you have a pointer so you could point to the railing, the ones that you're talking about and where the other is going to happen, or no?
I do, well, I think you can kind
Yeah,
of see
I'm figuring out, but I'm just wondering if it can be very
So
specific.
the hand cursor is sort of hovering in the middle.
Okay,
photo.
thank you.
So those
Yeah.
are the wood posts that we're
Thank you.
doing. Yep,
That's gonna be remaining or taken out?
remaining.
She's saying that there's a delay.
lag.
There's a delay. It's
Between the
controlled by
two
ones. There's a delay. Changes.
I'll continue. So these are just drawings taken from our construction set. We have an elevation at the top, a plan at the bottom, and a section detail at the right. And I'll get into there's a further detail of the railing profile itself. But this is just kind of showing how these railings would be attached to those existing wood posts, which are to be sort of repaired in place. And then there's a wood curb being added to the length of ramp, and that's just for, standard curb detail for fall protection and compliance. So this shows that north stair as well. So we would only need the one run of railing and then a bottom rail along the stair. On the right, there is the sort of OG profile of the railing we're proposing. Section and sort of elevation detail. And then we are proposing to do the railings in solid solid bronze. And so they will have a sort of matte natural finish that will patina over time, and it will cut down on routine maintenance required by the Parks Department. So just moving from to the next facade, this is the east facade of the cottage. This entrance came in the 80s with the sort of big restoration campaign. It provides emergency egress for the theater, which is sort of immediately on the other side of that door. So it's purely an emergency exit. And the historic photo on the right shows that southeast corner where there used to be a sort of like shed installation, appears to be for bike parking, in one of the many iterations of this building before the 1940s. And so this is again, just a really brief synopsis demonstration that we do not have a consistent sort of historic condition for this facade. And there is no original railing to go back to. detail of these railings as well, weathered in really the same way. A lot of UV deterioration, a lot of missing balusters just based on the sort of movement between the wood top and bottom rail. A lot of these have just sort of lost their anchorage and fallen out. But we do feel that the wood posts are serviceable, you know, they're just solid, almost like utility pole scale installation. So they're very hardy, and we think we can restore them and kind of just leave that marker of the 80s restoration that was done. Same drawings, just for the details of the east facade. Showing the top railing and then the bottom bronze rail with a curved detail at the stair platform made out of wood. And then the south facade, the final of the 3 facades that have entrances. This is used as the staff entrance, so it is used daily, but only by employees of the cottage, Marionette Theatre. And on the left is a current conditions photo. On the right is a Moses era photo, which shows that it at one point actually had like a cast stone stair with what we think is a metal railing, like a square stock metal railing with posts. And then again, current details of that condition. We have one of the assemblies of railing entirely missing except for that inboard railing. You can see some of the deterioration that's happening on that far right as well. And same details, just showing everything is sort of matching in proportions and details across all 3 entrances. And the next portion of the scope is about flagpoles. So I'm happy to take railing specific questions or just move on from here. Yes.
Do you have a sample of the railing?
I don't actually. I just know that it's bronze and we're gonna have it as sort of matte a finish as possible.
Because in looking at it, it's so rustic that I
Yes.
can't imagine that kind of a railing on it. How would
Yeah.
be appropriate? Isn't there any way to do wood railings that are solid pieces of round wood that would? Be
So
sturdy
we
enough?
could do wood railings. They would largely follow the same installation as is there now. It was a design decision to try to do a more minimal design, because we felt that the existing railings are kind of an invented condition, and we thought, you know, in terms of longevity and use, the metal would serve a really functional purpose, but we do understand that there is a lift in demonstrating that metal is appropriate here because the cottage does have a certain.
Would the palette
aesthetic.
be similar?
It would, so the whole cottage is being sort of restained, retreated, so it will return to a darker color that it's sort of lost with a lot of the weathering, especially at the stairs. So the idea is that the metal will more or less match the new darker finish of the cottage.
So if I could follow up on that, a different question first, but on that one, are the balusters going to be refinished to be that darker color or just the facade?
Yeah, let me go back just 2 slides. So the stairs are being sort of repaired in place, those wood posts are being repaired in place, and everything gets that same stain treatment. So the stairs, while they do not currently match the color of the facade, will return to that darker brown color.
I think that Madge, who had the prior question, had a good thoughtful concern. I tend to share that, but going with metal, are you proposing a custom metal bronze railing or from a catalog?
It is a catalog, but it's sort of custom cut and fit to the site. So it's a catalog profile, sort of long stock of railing that would then get bent and cut and properly fit.
I'm on the preservation committee.
Yes.
I was, at Fire Blender Bell a very long time ago.
Okay.
It was,
Yes,
all right, so just, I'm happy that you're taking care of it. The only thing that concerns me is that introducing metal railings. Right now, we're in a very good, construction mode for synthetic materials
Mm.
that would be just as good. They don't hold the heat or the snow. Kids can grab onto it. And yes, my preference and just me being ornery, having looked at that all those years ago, is that I think we need something that isn't going to be harmful to kids, because the amazing thing about this building is when it's in play, and I don't know if the people are here from the parks, but the kids love to run up and down, create their own theater. They sit down instantly and are quiet to hear what fantastic things take place there. So I'm just kind of squirrely about introducing metal into this rustic building. You know, you wouldn't see this at a log cabin in Nova Scotia, for instance. And this is the model. So I was wondering if you might have a say.
yeah, I mean, I think this is a sort of evolving process, so. And I thank you
I'll
for your
leave my
comments.
name and phone number so you can
Yeah.
meet me in the middle of the night when, you know, we're used to this.
Well, going to Paige's excellent point, would these railings be in the sun where they would get quite hot and sometimes? As wood would not, or a composite would not?
Well, they do, because as the sun moves around, two of the, if I'm remembering correctly, orientations would absorb sun, the heat.
The
And I
one
don't
at the
know
east
enough,
Not the one.
my memory isn't enough about other things, but I would think it would look very peculiar if we jumped a century and put, you know, a contemporary metal, railing. I'm old fashioned to that extreme. I know that the wood railings fall out, I mean, the spindles, but there are synthetic ones now that look pretty damn good. That you can put in those areas where, it takes the wear and tear. So I would, fingers crossed, you'll have a second look.
Is there a cost difference between the wood versus metal and routine maintenance? Because if this is something that's gonna happen over and over and over again, I can see the argument in the case for introducing metal into this.
Yeah. There is a cost difference. I think one to one, the metal is more expensive, but the wood installation requires more material.
Mhm.
So I looked at the numbers a very long time ago, but it was not a huge difference, like financially, the project is in budget. And so this is not, you know, sort of like a cost savings decision. If we did wood, it would probably be, like I said, more or less equal to that same cost, because it's just more material at a lower cost than the metal.
But there would be routine maintenance.
But then,
Yeah.
yeah, the idea is that Parks is then also paying for a routine maintenance and repair, which has been a pain point. Could you just speak up? Oh, yeah, sorry.
I can't hear.
What did you hear?
Sorry. I was-
There are composite, the page made a really good point. There are composite materials that are actually, because I work with a lot of restoration companies, that are actually less expensive than wood, less expensive than metal, and do mirror wood, and they do look like terracotta. They use a lot on facades now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that's something to look into, because it'll be in budget, and it'll probably be less, you know, be more cost effective in terms of the installation and all.
Yeah,
Would be
we can look into that.
safer for the kids also in that material, because if you have a a hot metal on a sunny day.
Yeah.
You know, it's not nice, and in the winter, not cool, be that cold.
Mhm.
And, they tend to last a long time. We've put some on some of our buildings and they're still, they may look a little ugly because they repeat, you know, that they don't look like wood. But on the other hand, from the distance and from a photograph of a kid and a parent, you wouldn't know the difference.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I find the comments from Paige, from Madge, extremely helpful and constructive. I am not an expert on any of this especially, but what I do want to ask, and I mean it in, I hope, the most helpful way. Everything that you are describing, if I may take a few points, you are trying to renew and maintain this building, which has been there for a long time, and you are determining, and correct me if that you can restore the, and in needed places where the wood, the balustrades and so on are worn down, and you are now thinking appropriately of other kinds of materials in this period of time that will not seek to be the same as the materials originally, but will emulate the form and function of, for example, the stairways. And now I think some of us are saying that you have mentioned that there are substitutes, artificial kinds of materials that may look like the wood, or we hope they will. We want them to, because we want them to look originally, but we're not going to use the same materials, the original. So I think what's being asked for here, with due respect, is have you in the Parks Department, are you the architects as completely, do you have any outside expert who might, or do you, who might be able particularly to address some of these fine points like the substitute materials, or, I mean, with complete respect for the Parks Department, this is wonderful, complicated, and it's a one-time thing. So I'm just wondering, and also, is the budget for this completely within the estimated budget, within the city budget as you assume? And if it will take 2 or 3 years, and you and the city have allocated this in the way you are beginning to describe it?
Yes, so I'll start by saying, yes, this project was designed by a consulting architectural firm.
Okay, who is that?
John G. White Architects Associates. They also have a host of sub-consultants.
Okay.
So any questions about materials can definitely be answered through sort of those channels that we've already established with the contracted work through them. This project is currently on budget based on our last estimate. We are hoping to bid out the work in the next few months. This is the approval that is sort of, we're trying to iron out the details and use that sort of procurement gap to our advantage, because we award the work and then 8 months later, if everything
Yes,
goes well, we
right.
start.
That's
So
what yes,
trying
exactly.
to just have some overlapping progress schedules. And then, so this is on track to start construction in, it's 2024, spring, summer 2025.
But this is a Parks Department project, not a Conservancy project.
It is not a
It
conservancy.
goes through the
project.
246
Thank you.
steps of the Parks Department.
That's what I was trying to ask.
Not the 5 steps that Conservancy has or whatever. So, okay, don't count on 2025.
Got it.
A related question
Yeah.
about timing, will the Delacorte work be done by then? I just think, it's wondering how disruptive that will be to that corner of the.
We have been coordinating with CPC on, you know, their sort of tag of the theater work, and they're also doing some path work. I don't remember the sequencing, but we have been in communication in terms of how things will overlap, if they'll overlap, and I think they were actually supposed to start in advance of this work. And the theater, I'm sorry, I don't know when that is actually scheduled to be complete. What, did I answer all of the?
I think I'm in.
Okay.
Any other questions
yes,
about
thank you.
what Amy has presented so far?
I have just one comment, and it's very secondhand. I have heard that often these very attractive metal railings are stolen.
You know, I didn't think of that, but we have had some security
Oh,
issues
my.
at the building.
Yes.
Yeah, resale value.
Yeah,
It's a
because
good point.
I think you're such a downer.
You don't have
It
a,
would be a major.
you don't have a criminal mind. huh?
I know, I wasn't even thinking that. Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, this is a detail we're still working out, so we can very honestly look at other alternatives. On other projects, I know in the past, the cost of sort of synthetic wood has been more than we wanted to spend, and it made almost more sense to just use wood and factor in the replacement. So, you know, but we will honestly look into concerns around sort of thermal heat and freeze with the metal. The ability that they might walk off one day in the night as well. And try to see if there's a more hybrid solution to this.
If I could just make one more comment, because I'm not sure we're gonna talk about this again before we vote, if we vote. I think that synthetic wood composite products are not necessarily a panacea. They get covered with mold. Although I think the cost may be less than it was in the past, because you can 3D print them to whatever you want. But I think, to me, the most important comment here was first made by Madge, which is, this is a very rustic building. She's made several helpful comments. But this is such a rustic building that the metal solution doesn't, even though you don't have any historic proof as to what it was originally, it just doesn't feel right.
Derek, do you have a hearing date with landmarks?
We had October 8th sort of penciled in, but we may have a few issues with getting every resolution in by then, so it's October 8th if we're lucky.
I think Barbara had something to say.
I just wanted to say that it seems like a lot of very good comments have been made regarding wood handles, wood railings. And I think that is probably the preference of the committee, with Parks Committee going along with that.
Okay.
And so I would strongly advise you to consider it, because I think our resolution will probably mention that we feel that
Yeah.
this is the way to go.
Yeah,
So-
no.
For you to take another look, which you said. that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
probably
yeah,
no,
so that'd be
already
great.
do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barbara, when you said wood, did you mean to include composite products when you said wood, or did you mean?
You know,
wood?
I don't know enough about composite products. I do agree with you, though, that they tend to get lichen and other kinds of things stuck on them. I don't know if that's unique to,
It can happen to wood too.
yeah.
If we vote, and it's our vote now, all of you.
No, we're actually not going to vote.
Oh,
Just
okay,
a
good.
minute. I think because you have,
Yeah, let me.
you have more, right?
Good.
We have one more.
In this discussion, the spindles are also, being considered, I hope, for synthetic wood or replacement wood. Because that is where the kids come in. They weave in and out, play games, a fairy princess, do all sorts of cool things around, a staircase that they're not really, age eligible to play on and make their own fantasies. It's wonderful to watch. My daughter did that. Yes, she had a tumble, but after that, she had the best time ever. So I'm just worried about a composite amount of different materials being used when it should be the simplest log cabin ever. So I keep my fingers crossed that somebody comes up with some money to do it in the same materials.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely can look at that, okay. Okay, so, the next part of the scope is, in regards to the, flying of flags at the Swedish Cottage. So for a period of time, the Swedish flag and the American flag flew on the same pole, which is not sort of in compliance, diplomatically in terms of international relations. So we got a bit of a smack on the hand for that one, and the Swedish flag had to be removed from the existing flagpole. The cottage was originally constructed with a flagpole, which is the first image on the left, and a flag never flew, which we are leading to believe is because in 1876, they had this same exact conundrum and they refused to solve it. We're trying with, you know, the best to address this concern with what we have. So, we consulted the Parks and Vexiologist, who's Brooklyn Commissioner Martin Marr, who knows everything about the correct way to fly flags. And,
You didn't ask Justice Alito?
oh,
Yeah.
he's not on our list. So the correct way to fly a foreign country flag is always in partnership with the US flag. So there needs to be sort of installations of this couplet or triplet or whatever the installation is. Our solution to this problem is to install 2 flagpoles in the ground in front of the ramp. They are, per a park standard, they are 25 tall, but a foot or so of that is actually below grade. And so they are going to be below that roof ridge, which is at 25 feet 5 inches. So with that in mind, this is just the sort of plan detail showing the flags would go on either side of the existing fence, the existing sign, sorry. The commemorative plaque on that boulder would be protected and left in place. They do require a little bit of sort of concrete foundation work to make sure they are installed in compliance with the DOB. So that's just what that section is on the right. And then, this is a rendering, estimating what this will look like. So you'd have the American flag on the left, the Swedish flag on the right. Both are oriented towards the main entrance, which is at the north facade. They get kind of tucked into this corner view here, and skipping ahead, I'll wait for this to load. I recognize this doesn't have the best legibility, but this is a really abbreviated visibility study that was done to show sort of layers of visibility of having the flagpole at the roof and the 2 new proposed flagpoles in the ground. So the smallest, darkest yellow circle that kind of hugs that footprint of the one portion of the building is where you would see all 3 flags together, the one at the roof and the 2 in the ground. The larger yellow is where you would see the 2 new flagpoles sort of by themselves. Not really in conjunction with any of the facades. You would see them sort of over the existing trees or through the trees, depending on the season. And then sort of going out from there, the same idea with the roof. So that darker blue shape is where you see the existing roof flagpole in conjunction with a facade. And the light blue is where you see the roof flagpole, which will remain the sort of highest installation by solid 10 feet. Where you see that just sort of on its own above the trees. So these top 2 photos show those conditions where you really just see the US flag at the roof, not in conjunction with the building. And these views, along the left-hand side, this column, which, sorry, this one is cut off, but these are the views where you would start to see, the new proposed flags, and this is really the only vantage point where you would see all three together, is once you've passed that first gable and you're in that kind of, it's not a courtyard, but that kind of space between the fence and the house, the cottage.
Okay,
And that's about it. The rest is just, existing photos for context, to better, understand the kind of scale of the building, if there are any questions. So I'll leave it. at that.
Does the Swedish government have any involvement with this location?
The consulate does loosely, there is, some level of connection there, and so we do have a letter of support from them, to sort of fly the Swedish flag. There's been a lot of, public inquiry, which I've all received secondhand. I haven't received any of it myself, but I'm told that there is a lot of inquiry into why the Swedish flag is no longer there, so this is just a hope to kind of correct that lapse in.
Would the flags fly all the time and be lit at night, or would they just go up on occasion? Or
The flags are lit at night. There's enough light from, there's a street, I mean, they're not lit directly, but there is a path light pole sort of directly opposite them that we think will provide enough light. If it is determined that that is not enough light to fly them overnight, then, the Conservancy would actually be the ones charged with raising and lowering them. Or if there's like inclement weather, they would also be raised and lowered. But
So other than inclement weather, the flags are flown 24/7 essentially.
we believe so. I think we have to triple check our light calculations, but at the moment, we're not proposing any additional lighting, because we didn't want it to feel like a parade float or something, like very sort of full of pomp and circumstance. So we're trying to do this in the most minimal way we can, which is more than we were hoping for, but this is sort of where the interpretation landed with doing it in
What would be
compliance.
the material of the flag poles?
They're metal, they'd be I think aluminum with like a factory applied finish to be matte.
Matte.
They aren't painted, so we wouldn't worry about chipping paint or routine maintenance again. And we would hope to find a finish that is sort of darker, that blends a little bit with the facade that they're in front of.
okay, can we move on?
Are there any questions?
Sure.
Madge?
First of all, why still the one on the top if you're gonna
Yeah.
have two new ones?
So the condition is more or less historic, and I think that this was already sort of a can of worms to figure out the correct installation. And it felt like even more of a political issue to try to decommission a flagpole that's flying the American flag. We didn't want to be seen as unpatriotic. We recognize it is somewhat redundant. The idea is that potentially in many years into the future, when the flagpole at the roof is no longer serviceable, it may be replaced with a finial, like there was in a previous iteration of the building, or something similar. So we're
Second,
not touching it for now.
to be too nitpicky, I don't think you're allowed to fly the flag at night. You're supposed to come down
Right,
at
exactly,
sunset.
unless it's lit, yeah.
unless it's like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it has the right amount of lighting, so that we do have to make that determination. And
Because at most forts and on ships and in all the
Yeah.
military, it comes down.
so,
Okay,
exactly.
Any other questions or comments? No. Is that?
That's the
totality
full
of your
presentation. Yes, there's
Okay.
no other secret scope.
So I would propose a resolution, of course, in two different parts. I think the second part about the flags, I don't see any controversy about that. I think we can approve that as presented. The first part about replacing the wood with the metal, I would request that NYC Parks take another look at all the items that are being proposed to be replaced
Mhm.
by metal. And you look into composite materials or into, just try to make, the replacement as close to the true original feeling of the log cabin
Mhm.
as possible. Does the preservation committee have anything more to add?
I just wanted to ask one more question, if I could, the balusters, what kind of, what tree, what species of what kind of, what are they?
No, we don't actually know. So there's a mix of, sort of unconfirmed type of pine, fir, and I think a little bit of cedar has appeared on these in various.
Because it looks like pretty fine grained, and cedar is so durable, but cedar's also not fine grained at all, so.
No, I remember that we had this debate a long time ago. That's when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
And we ended up trying several different species by leaving them out and letting them get wet for a term. Also, the problem is with splinters because the kids are going to be running them up and down. So in the end, I believe we started off with oak and ended up with cedar. And I don't know what came after that. Yeah, but it worked. But you need to put linseed oil on virtually both. And of course, parents got very upset because kids got sticky fingers. But ultimately, they were told, don't touch the flagpoles. But anyway, that's my memory. I don't know what happened afterwards, but you do wanted to keep it rustic without adding plastic or metal. Except for perhaps just the flagpole itself.
Okay.
So I would now like to take a vote. Maybe we'll separate it by committee. So everybody from the Parks and Environment Committee voting in favor?
Is anybody on Zoom?
I'm sorry?
Anybody on Zoom, any committee
Oh.
people?
No.
Is there anybody, would Alex know if there's anybody on?
No,
Oh,
there is not.
And there are two people who maybe from the community, I'm not sure who they are over there, but just things they don't even think of.
Does anybody
I know who they
else
are.
have anything to say?
Oh, no, but we're from Broadway Mall Association. We have a few minutes in the agenda.
Oh,
You'll be
different
here,
item.
you'll be here real soon.
Yeah.
Oh, we live in.
Okay, so let's call the
Yeah.
question then.
Yeah.
Move it on.
Okay, so Parks and Environment, everybody voting in favor? Eight. Anybody against? I guess we've got. Yeah. Okay, preservation, everybody in favor?
I'm on both, so I don't, put me wherever you want.
We need you on preservation for the count.
All right.
So
For the
four.
correct one, add one. Thank you.
Four. I don't think we have anybody else to preservation, right? So, four. No objections, nobody not voting for cause, nobody abstaining, right? So this, will be approved, it has been approved unanimously, but we will be requesting that the Parks Department take another look at the material. Of course, thank you so much.
Thank you, I really appreciate your time. That's
Thank you.
really helpful.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks for the
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay, but please do grab some.
Well, I'm gonna give up my seat, so.
All right. Yeah.
We have a Riverside Park. So it's gonna be Margaret and John. You should have a seat up there.
Is this the laptop that we're using to advance or for the slides?
I think so. I think this is. I wanna say.
I know you want our PowerPoint.
There you go. Nope, that's that it. Oh, no, Alex,
Broadway Mall Association.
do you have, the Riverside Park presentations? Okay.
Yeah, I have it up right now. I think it just took a second.
Can we do the other one or which one? The other one first. There's a.
Okay, I see. Yeah,
There
this
we
one.
go.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, all right. Set. So next up, we have presentations from Margaret and John regarding a few alterations changes in Riverside Park. You guys will present it. It's Cherry Walk and then I think pathways. Is that what it is? Steps and the fields.
Right,
Got it.
so initially we've got two designs, one for the rehab of existing synthetic turf ball fields at 107th Street in Riverside Park, and the other one is for reconstruction of a stair at 106th Street in Riverside Park. So starting with the synthetic turf ball field reconstruction, it is funded by the mayor, and the existing ball field is at 107th Street in Riverside Park. Oh, and where are we going? Oh, there we go. Little slow. Oops. So as I said, these are existing ball fields. We have three at that level, 101, 103, and 107. And this is the northernmost one. You know, as you can see from those images there, they're very heavily used. They've been a real benefit to the community. They were originally installed in 2005, which is almost 20 years ago. So that is an unusually long lifespan for synthetic turf, but they've now reached the end of their life. So the proposal is to replace the turf surface and e-layer underneath that and the infill. So basically all of the infrastructure is remaining the same. The fences remain the same, all the perimeter condition, but basically we just lift up what we call the carpet, you know, which is the turf layer of it. We'll then sort of clean the catch basins, make sure everything, the drainage, subsurface drainage structure, make sure everything below grade is working well, and then replace the turf carpet. There we go. So again, looking at the location, we're south of Skate Park, north of the concession at 105th Street, in the recreation area, historically the recreation area of Riverside. Although we're close to the river, we have no drainage problems, no flooding issues here. And these are boilerplate slides that we put in for all of our presentations. There we go. So this shows you the actual location of the ball field. Fairly large, predominantly sulfur. As I said, all of the perimeter condition remains the same. So we propose to remove the existing carpet surface and the rubber comb and the shot pad and replace with a new carpet surface, and we no longer use a rubber crumb surface, so the infill surface will now be a clean rounded sand. And this shows you the current condition of the ball fields. As I said, they're now almost 20 years old, so they're showing their age. You can see on the left-hand image, you can see the rubber crumb surface, which is still intact, but it's got migrated as the surface itself gets compacted. It's sort of migrated to the top. And on the right-hand side, you can see the condition of the fields. We've done a lot of patching and a lot of repairs over the last 20 years, but we were told last year that that was no longer feasible and we had to start afresh. So that's project number one. I don't think there's any more slides. So we'll move on to the stair. Now, so how do I get to the next PowerPoint?
Oh, I'm pulling it up really quick.
Yeah, we got it. Let me see how long.
Yeah.
There we go. No, I put the wrong glasses on. I can't see anything. Anyway, there we go.
There you go.
Right, so this is the reconstruction of
Excuse me, Margaret, are those black patches?
I don't know what that is. They're on this.
They're
right
not
here
part
too.
yeah.
It's, I don't know.
I think it was there.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay, I like, are the black patches integral to the system, or are they kind of growth?
Can we remove them?
One.
Oh, okay.
Isn't there a
But
new one?
it's migraine.
It's okay if it's at the top of it.
Yeah.
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 Okay,
Okay,
now we get to see Riverside Park
conservancy.
Service.
Yes, so and that's of note,
Nope.
because this, what, oh dear.
I think the issue is when I'm sharing the Zoom panels come up, so I'm gonna hide them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it
Okay.
looks like.
I think it's the program.
So of note, as you pointed out, Riverside Park Conservancy on the right-hand side. So this project is actually funded with donations to the Riverside Park Conservancy, which allows us to, as you pointed out earlier, Klari, move this project along a little bit more quickly. So our total budget here is approximately $900,000. It's very slow to advance. There we go. The reconstruction is to reconstruct the existing granite stairs and also install 2 new ADA compliant handrails. So pretty simple. Looking at the location of the stair, it sits at the terminus of 106th Street. And it makes a connection from what we call a service road, which is, one northbound lane on Riverside Drive that services the buildings, makes a connection down to the multi-lane roadway of Riverside Drive and also to an existing bus stop at 106th Street. It doesn't actually take you into the park. It takes you from one portion of Riverside Drive to another. There we go. So again, no flooding issues here. We're a long way from the river, so we have no coastal flooding. And then the next 2 slides are going to be street flooding, which is not a problem here. So there we go. And the next one is going to be looking at the location, which is facing Riverside Park and connecting to the residential areas of Riverside Drive. So now getting to our stairs. So this is a pretty early stair. This was built around about 1900. And we don't have a lot of drawings from the construction of the park in that particular era. So, it's a little bit challenging for us to work on the design when we don't have the original installation drawings. So one sort of benefit to this project was the fact that there was actually a monument there, this monument equestrian statue of Franz Siegel. So as we have no drawings, we approach the Public Design Commission because if there is a monument, there's also a chance that they're going to have construction details for the sort of adjacent landscape. And at that point, we weren't entirely sure whether the stair had been constructed at the same time as the monument or whether they were constructed independently. However, the material we got from the Public Design Commission was helpful in that it proved the left-hand side image. You can see that the stair actually predated the installation of the monument, which is very helpful for us. They didn't have any drawings, but it's helpful for us because we don't have to deal with working around a monument, which also makes the project a lot more complex. So we didn't get the information that we were hoping for, but we did find out that moving ahead with the design was going to be easier than it would have been had there been an adjacent monument. So Franz Siegel himself and his horse came along in 1907, so shortly after the construction of the stairs. The only other work done in the area was, you might all remember, we did some improvements to the bus stops in 2020, safe routes to transit. So we made some improvements to this existing bus stop at 106th Street. And you can see in the upper image there, you can see the condition of the existing stairs. I mean, it was really, the risers were in fairly good condition. On the left-hand side, you can see the cheek hole there. There was some movement in the cheek hole, which we of course assume was associated with root infiltration from that adjacent tree. So, at that point, the stairs were in fairly good condition. However, there we go. top left, August 2023. And some, you know, a driver just went a little bit too far at 106th Street, went down the stairs, displaced quite a few of the risers, knocked the handrail down. So that was really problematic. So as you can see from the image on the right, we had to close 2/3 of the stairs because of the damage and movement to the risers. And, you know, at that point, it clearly wasn't we're just going to do a Band-Aid, we're just going to fix it. We needed to look at doing a reconstruction of the entire stair because of the displacement of the risers, we could then see into underneath the stairs, and we could see that, as is not untypical for an installation of that period, that the risers were actually sitting on rubble walls as opposed to a continuous concrete foundation. And, you know, it had lasted for 120 years, but that's not, you know, it's not standard construction procedure. So, you know, one benefit to this funding coming from the Conservancy, other than the fact that it really speeds things up, is that we were enabled us to assemble a team. So, you know, I was able to work with an engineer, and we were also able to hire an arborist to work along with this because we knew that this root infiltration was going to be problematic. So the engineer actually recommended doing a little bit more investigation. So I'm saying this because, you know, the portion of the stair is closed and appears to be under construction. And we have had some questions from the community in that, you know, we started work, you know, why aren't you continuing it with it? So, you know, the work that we did there was as per the right at the recommendation of the engineer to do some more probes and some more investigation in order to inform the design. So the work that we did at the beginning of the summer has now resulted in the design that we will be moving ahead with. And as you can see the rubble walls there, and you can also see the sort of the, you know, the extent of the root infiltration there, which is, so working with the engineer, we've come up with the least invasive plan for the reconstruction of this stair. We'll remove all the granite risers, reset the ones that are in good condition, match in kind for the new risers. And he is also recommending that instead of removing all of those rubble walls, that we actually just encapsulate them. So we're going to put a new concrete foundation around those existing rubble walls, which will be more sort of less invasive in terms of excavation, and also less problematic for the root disturbance. And the materials we plan to use will naturally exist in granite in kind. Our typical handrail, which we've used in many of the other projects that you've seen over the last few years. We will remove and reset and replace in kind the bluestone at the bottom of the stairs where necessary. And you know, looking at our final design here, just to summarize what we have already discussed. There we go. So it's pretty much an in-kind replacement. You can see the location of those two proposed ADA compliant handrails. And the other thing that we are adding is the bottom right, we're putting two bollards on the landing at the top of somewhat of a deterrent. Fingers crossed for any more kind of wayward drivers. Yes. So the having done the probes and now having done the design, we hope to go into construction fairly soon on the duration of the 3 months. Doubling back to the ball fields, I forgot to tell you, those should go into construction November, December, and that will be a 2-month duration. So we'll be doing that work over the winter when those ball fields are not as heavily used.
Yeah, great.
So please let me know if you have any
That was
questions
my
on either of
question.
those.
It's not a temperature issue at all.
No, I mean, with the ball fields, apparently not. I mean, they do use an adhesive, and the adhesive would be the only thing that would be temperature sensitive, yes.
I remember when you put in the artificial turf in 2005 and how controversial it was with this board. Yeah, look at it, it's worked out so well for almost 20 years. I'm thinking about the cost difference between replanting it every year, every 6 months of this. It's a wonderful solution.
And they've been incredibly popular, and I have to say, especially during COVID, because those sort of outdoor areas where there were people in every inch of the ball field, although there weren't any sort of organized games there, they were just so.
How long of a life does something like that?
Well, typically synthetic turf, so we had a warranty when we first installed it, and you get a 9-year warranty. So after 9 years, the original contractor isn't going to come back. So the fact that we managed to get through almost 20 years was pretty impressive, I think, and was down to, again, Riverside Park Conservancy, we've got a ball field crew, they were out there doing the ball fields, they were really taking care of them. So, we maximized the,
With repairs
investment.
almost every year.
Yes.
We had to be
Right,
patching and sewing.
But
Yeah,
they're still there, and it's wonderful, the kids can use them.
yeah.
They're well used, because there are so many games to pick up
Quite wonderful.
all the time.
Yeah, may I ask a
Yes.
question about the stairs or a couple
Yeah.
questions? The older photo that predated the monument appeared to have no railings. Was that right?
Yeah, well, that was pretty standard.
I understand that. I just wanted to be sure about that. So is the stair project an LPC item at all, or?
Yes, but because it's a replacement in kind, we actually don't need a resolution.
So
We
why?
approved it already.
So they're-
Just because we had, you guys were out for 2 months and.
All right, well, my
Along with
my
that.
comment then on that one is you're starting over, or not starting over, but you're doing a lot. And I've never been a fan of the simple pipe rail. I would love to see you get some of that sculpted bronze railing that we sort of had a problem with at the Swedish Cottage, and have something that had kind of a shape and some kind of historic suggestion to it rather than pipe rail, if you're
Well,
going
it's
to
actually
do that
not
here.
pipe rail. Well, it is kind of, a
Just
pipe
kind
rail.
of
It's a
a
nice
pipe rail.
pipe rail. I think the thing is, we've tried to be consistent throughout.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of stairs, and if you have a different thing going on with every stair, then it works against our effort to make people see this as one big sort of historic arc, and you're always reinventing the wheel. The other thing is, because, as you pointed out, there was no handrail there originally, we don't have any precedent, so we would be sort of inventing, something, which is sort of, landmarks have
Consistent with all
approved.
the other rails. I mean,
Sorry?
it's consistent with all the rails throughout the
Exactly.
party. Yeah.
And if somebody else drives down the stairs, then it's not gonna cost us an arm and a leg to replace it, as it would if it was a bronze handrail.
Can you take a skateboard down it?
We'll soon find out.
Very good.
I think not in that location, yeah.
Alex, do we have any questions online?
No questions or hand raised at the moment.
Thank you. So I just wanted to confirm, the soccer field doesn't need a resolution?
No.
Okay,
Okay.
that the 106th Street steps do.
No,
They don't.
no.
Even with the railings, it's all.
We're good.
Okay,
We're
you're
good on
good.
that.
Thank you. Perfect.
We just wanted to make sure that you saw these projects and you were
Yeah.
aware of them, but, good. Thank you.
So there's no.
So, and there's one more item.
Yeah, one more item. The paving
Yeah.
of Cherry Walk.
So I'm just here to update you, as you know, for several years now, the city has been investing a lot in repaving paths in Riverside Park, 79th to 83rd, 96th up to 100th Street, and numerous others. And one of the projects we've been trying to get done, but we wanted to do it in the off season as best we could, is the Cherry Walk, which has needed it. It was built in 1999, and it has needed it badly. A few years ago, we did some interim repairs, but it needs to be paved. And we finally aligned the stars, so we have the contractor ready to go, actually starting on the 23rd of September. So starting next Monday, this is the section, if you don't know, Cherry Walk is the greenway from 100th Street to St. Clair Place. And so that's the stretch, and there aren't any access points between there. So the detour route for bicycles, which I sent earlier today, uses some existing bike lanes on Broadway and 125th Street, and then directs cyclists up to Riverside Drive to get down to 102nd Street, where you pick up the greenway again.
John, is this Parks Department or Conservancy project?
Parks.
We'll make sure to post the detours along.
Right.
Post this.
And it will be signed, we're
Yeah.
putting up signs right now,
What is the paved with, John?
asphalt.
Oh, okay.
And how long is this project?
So It is contracted as a 6-month project. I do not expect it to take anything like that. You know, if we get a bad winter or they run into something we don't expect, it could slow it down, but officially it's spring 2025. I don't think it will take anything anywhere near that long, but that's what I have to say at this point.
And asphalt, so it's down there now.
Yes.
And will the, whatever lines are made to separate the pedestrian area from the bike
All
area?
new, yes.
Redo that?
Yes.
It's actually going to be slightly different though. It's going to conform more to our, because that was such an early installation, we hadn't sort of fully figured out our palette then. So now we're trying to citywide, you know, use the same palette. So we'll have designated bike and pedestrian. But it's going to conform to our standard instead of just, remember it had that little green line down one side. It was not entirely clear.
So is there enough width to do northbound bike and separately pedestrian and then southbound next to the river bike and
So
pedestrian?
there's not
Four
going to
lanes?
be, northbound and southbound for pedestrians. The pedestrians are,
That's
as far as I remember, going to be on the waterfront. And then there's going to be northbound and southbound for cyclists.
So it'll be 3 lanes, pedestrians all in both directions on the waterfront. And the problem with how it started out and probably with this one too, is it's counter instinctive because pedestrians, everybody wants to go right to go north and then river to go south. It started out confusing even with minimal, those plastic things that were marking it, whatever, and limited signage. And over the years, as that all more deteriorated, became, if anything, more confusing. This may be the only thing you can do,
Well,
but it's very counterinstinctive for pedestrians to know that they're supposed to be just along the river in both directions.
I think that's their natural inclination though, because there's actually a desire line along there. You know, people tend to migrate towards the water. Because if you're on the other side, you know, you're right by the Henry Hudson Parkway.
Right.
And there's somewhat of a slope in portions there.
I don't know, as early and longstanding users of the Cherry Walk, Richard and I many times have had to remind ourselves, oh, don't stay on the right, go over there. If somehow it doesn't get ingrained that you've got to be over there and not over here.
It's true on the whole Esplanade, actually, and I was
Yes.
walking on it and with a friend the other day, and we actually had to exit at 115th Street where there was a stairway because there was so many e-bikes on the road. And also, I didn't realize that there's no markings anymore to alert pedestrians that you should be on the left. I didn't know that until my partner, who's a biker, said to me, "Oh my gosh, you were wrong," but I had no idea, the e-bikes were detouring around me and it was bad.
It's
So-
going to be clearer once it's done, and I want to add that,
I'm not talking about Cherry Walk.
I know,
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what section you're talking about, but I was going to say that we've been working with DOT, or I should say DOT has been doing us a favor of redoing the stenciling.
Oh, great.
Almost all
Oh,
down
great.
We were down there
I was-
last weekend and we were having a problem with it.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to not have e-bikes in there too, same thing with
Yes.
Central Park, but,
I mean, I was about to say, walking in the park, often going south, and even with, and I could see the way sometimes you manage to guide people and the bikes and so on. However, often I think, should there be a little sign? Of course, nobody reads, but for a while, there were some small signs or arrows to direct the bikes and so on. When I'm walking, I'm talking about downtown as well, the bikes will cross the pedestrian path. Will it work if there is some sort of signage that guides the bike, that is a picture of a bike and get them onto that? I mean,
It doesn't matter what you tell bicyclists.
no, I know. No, I know how it's become so ridiculously common that on a crowded day or not, the walkers are walking, enjoying, and then it's often the e-bikers or others who then cross, and then everybody goes, what? you know, what's happening. So I'm looking for some method without in any way impinging on the aesthetics of it all. And I think either there's got to be some particular little sign that will get the bike, that they'll be able to see it. It's as hard as hell, but it has become often very unpleasant, very, and sometimes dangerous.
Would we be able to see the type of stenciling or that the
Thank you.
DOT is gonna put in? Would we be able to provide input or any type of direction on what's clear or not clear? Is that something that you can come back to us with?
Sure, I can send you it is, for most of the greenway, northbound and southbound. So northbound bikes, runners, skaters, whatever, southbound bikes, runners, skaters with the line separating. And this is being repeated about every 200 feet, which if you're riding a bike, it's about 10 seconds, you know, so this is going up and down and they've been working on it. As I said, they're doing us a favor. They've been doing it in between their other work and trying to go the entire length of our section of the greenway, which goes from 59th to the Jordan Washington Bridge, so.
But John, if I understood what you were just saying, it sounded inconsistent with what you said about the marking on the cherry walk, which would be the heads not with everybody else northbound or southbound, but rather hugging the river.
Cherry walk is so narrow
Yes.
that we're doing it that way to try to separate bikes.
So people won't
as
get
much
killed.
as we can.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a challenge because
Yeah,
we can't
and-
widen.
yeah, it is, and I mean, there's no right answer because, I mean, the river walk is bad enough, the cherry walk is maybe even narrower, but when you have several different sets of what you're supposed to do, it only further confuses.
That's what we're trying to correct.
Lots of luck.
Thanks.
But the modes of ambulating had become very complicated, understood. And then there's a question of the particular personal behavior. So got it, but we gotta find some of the methods for at least guidance.
There's a resolution for the judge.
So for none of your 3 items you need.
So we should let them go home and get some dinner.
Thank you
Yes,
so much for
indeed.
joining us.
As we all should.
Good to see you.
There is one other item, but it's also an update.
It's also another.
Oh,
Lovely.
dear.
You guys will enjoy it.
Terrible.
Stick around. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next one is from Broadway Mall.
You wanna stop off somewhere?
Yes.
I know, that is.
Yeah.
So, you're Andrew?
Yes, I'm Andrew Gaffney.
And you're Dana.
Donna, yeah.
Donna. Donna and Andrew, you both are from Broadway Malls Association. You're gonna give us an update on the public arts exhibit.
Yes.
Scully.
Yeah, Sean Scully, Broadway Shuffle, yeah.
Very excited to hear about this.
Yeah, we're very happy to be here. This is really just to say hello. We are the new Broadway Mall team. We have a couple, you know, we're small but mighty. We take care of 5 miles of malls and 1,100 streets. Yes, so I'm Andrew, again, I'm the executive director of Broadway Mall. I'm the new, I'm taking over from Roland Lewis.
Carpen used to be a board member here and
Oh.
was still very close.
We were both on the advisory board for many years and I did the rest.
Great, that's why we're here. We want to hear it all and, yeah. And I'm joined by our new director of outreach and development.
My name is Donna.
Hello.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice
Yeah.
to meet you.
And next month, I think Ian Olson, who's the director of horticulture, is going to come to do a real informed
Yeah.
discussion.
You have a card?
Yeah, I have cards here. I'm gonna-
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
So when did you start?
June 17th.
Wow.
Yeah, June 17th. And Donna, what was your first day?
It was August 17th.
August 7th, yeah.
So just
Yeah.
about a month ago. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we are brand new. We thought we just say hello. We had Jesse Nieves was in the office the other day and we're excited because we wanted to talk about the last sculpture, the Sean Scully sculptures going in this weekend. On 64th Street by Lincoln Center and Dante Park. So that means we can then release the curriculum to the school. So we wanted some help. Make sure the kids get the full, curriculum, but we have.
If we see the next slide, I'm not sure who's controlling the slides. Is it me?
Alex.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
No, it is
Just
me.
Let's see, okay.
good job, Alan.
It's like, you know,
Is everywhere.
Yeah.
So we know we're talking to an informed audience, but one thing that I think is really important and exciting is that we have begun the replanting, the restoration of the Broadway malls and the removal of a lot of the non-native plants, particularly like English ivy, nothing against the English, but it's not native to New York, so.
We got rid of them a long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. We won the war. Yeah, good. So if you go to 83rd Street, you'll see our signs and you will see the test mall, and you're all invited if you want to take a tour and go inside. Everyone wants to go inside, and I'm sure many of you have. But this is an effort that we began or just in June. And not a lot of people know about it. We have restored the mall at 83rd Street. We've also restored a mall at 164th Street. And they have basically mirror images of each other. And again, all of these plants are native to what you would have seen before the British got here, before the Dutch got here. So, and we're excited because we'll be taking care of these plants. They're all babies. We'll be taking care of them the next 3 years. The goal is that we will then have native plants that will attract native insects, the ones we like, the bumblebees and the butterflies and caterpillars, and over time these plants will take care of themselves. They'll use less water, they'll use less maintenance, and it will also add to the biodiversity of the Upper West Side and really the entire mall complex. So we're hoping that, we have 83 malls, so 2 malls is not a lot. So we are, fundraising for doing another 19 malls. We're the lucky recipients many years ago. Some of you may know from the Dormitory Authority of New York, thanks to Linda Rosenthal and Danny O'Donnell. So we're finally at the end of that grant process where we'll be able to take in $500,000 for capital reconstruction, and we know we have to come back because that's capital, state money, and we're going to redo the posts and chains on the perimeter of the malls, and then part of the grant allows us to replant within 4 feet from the posts and chains, and then we have fingers crossed private donations to do the rest, so we can do Great Greenway at 19 malls up and down Broadway. So
What about in the 90s?
that's, well, we haven't picked all the malls, but the 90s are absolutely going to be part of
I
it.
think
yeah.
when I was at one meeting here, but also based on conversations from residents, I live at 92nd Street and Riverside Drive, and know very well where the subway stop is and the structure. And of course, was involved many, many years ago in what was, please excuse me, what were the toilets there, and then turned into, with Bob Herman and many others, wonderful, a place for art.
Yes.
And I was also, I think, involved partly the symphony space, and there were all sorts of events there. And I just remember it all. However, I have been told, and I'm being very careful because since I didn't go in and look at it all myself, I've been told that just where the structure is at 96th Street and around, it's always stated to me in a negative way, which is that it's filled with feces, filth to such an extent that the Parks Department, others cannot even get in. And I heard some of it, I believe, when I was at a meeting here. Now, I just said, what? What?
I remember that.
I'm not making it, good, thank you, because I thought for a minute, am I making this up? I happened to be there, which I wasn't, because I was crossing today with a young woman who was doing some work for me. And as we were walking back, I was directing her, please be careful as you attempt to enter the subway. And then she looked at the building and I said, no, go get that way. So the way it was expressed to me was really stunning. So I just want to know, and the stunning part, and then I'm going to stop, is that the Parks Department has not been able to handle it. It's a mess and spreading out to some of the other places, and why can't they take care of it? I mean, that isn't said in such extreme ways.
Yes.
So please tell me.
We are aware of that building.
Thank
and
you.
We are interested in that building. We are
It's a
interested,
nightmare.
yeah, in upgrading, improving it and using it as part of our programming, including, including outreach. Well, one of the goals here, and I think we can, if we look at the next slide, which, we talk about, this public art, the history of public art at,
Could I just ask you a question
Sure.
about malls?
yes.
The barrier at the end of the mall.
Mhm.
Would you consider repainting that in some color that's not so
We have,
awful?
yes, we have requested, to repaint it, and before we choose the color, that's a good point. We can revisit that.
Barrier.
The end caps, yeah,
Yeah, the end cap, right.
yeah, the end caps of all, yeah.
Now, a number of years ago, when I was on that, Rosenberg
Yeah.
board, I can't remember her name. Actually, her last name was the name of a tree or a plant or something.
Oh.
Do you remember? Anyway, she said that was the design expert,
Oh.
and she chose that color, and I
Oh, okay.
hated the color from the get-go.
Margaret's last name is Bracken, but
No, not
not
that.
now.
Don't blame her.
No, but Laurel. I think
Was it in a
Laurel
facility?
something.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. Anyway,
Luckily, it predates us, so we, yeah.
sorry.
That is, both are good points, both of which we will carry back to us, and we will carry back also to the elected officials who we work with as
Good,
well.
great.
Because we agree, and some of the end caps have also have graffiti.
Yeah,
We've asked parks to address those issues.
right.
I should add, with the 96th Street, we see that as a space. We want very much to do, the frustration about Broadway Mall is that it's the thing you just see in the middle of Broadway, and
Right.
everyone assumes someone else is taking care of it. Who knows? I'm an Upper West Sider, I understand. And the building becomes a place where we can have events and we can do.
You mean the one at 96?
At 96,
But
yeah.
but there is such serious
Yes,
work,
yeah.
so serious that it's almost shocking
Right.
that has to be done.
I think Paige has some.
Part of it, by
Sorry.
the way, congratulations,
Thank you.
you've got a terrible job, but it's gonna be beautiful at the end. My only, thing that, I live on West 88th Street.
Yes,
And one of the things that I've noticed over the last 3 or 4 years, and maybe it was because of people being more at home, et cetera, that you've got to do what they do in England, which is every couple of months, somebody comes with a tank of chlorine and water and sprays and cleans things.
Mhm.
Because I've been trying to cross something and I wanted to put my shopping bag down and then I look and I go, whoops, no, not today. Because it's not kept.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is we want a pristine sort of floral environment down there because the setup is stunning,
Yeah.
but it's being beaten
Yeah.
by debris.
yeah.
And people throwing garbage baskets in the middle. I mean, that doesn't help either.
Yeah,
So,
some of the malls are really challenging.
Yeah.
And others
Yeah.
aren't.
We have a service contract with Goddard Riverside,
Yeah.
Greenkeepers, and they do and the Parks Department does their rounds, but it's not, and I have to say now, being new to this, if you compare to the Lincoln Square bid and the state of repair and
Well,
the
exactly,
maintenance,
it's completely,
they also have garbage receptacles at
Exactly.
the end
Yeah, and
caps,
they,
which
but
were,
they've only got what, two, they've got 10 blocks of,
yeah,
yeah.
that's exactly,
A
and,
big budget.
And a big budget.
yeah, and they have a big
And
budget.
they've got their own
the
sanitation.
extremes,
Yeah.
the extreme is really psychologically shocking
Yeah.
and physically terrible. It's just such an extreme. So surely
Even
something's gotta be
using-
done.
Yeah,
Even doing it seasonally to get the crud out.
Yeah.
just like a real, yeah, like a
Because
deep
when you're
clean.
standing there and you've got a lot of people standing there, nobody knows where to go.
Mhm.
Because of a dog poop or somebody moved a trash can or a bit.
Yeah.
So how are you doing with yard installation?
Anyway,
Yeah, no, those are great points. We appreciate.
sorry, I
So
was
the-
sitting next to you. I didn't mean.
No, not at all. No. We plan to come back as often as possible. We are excited because this is the 15th public art installation on the Broadway malls. And the latest one was really a coup because the artist Sean Scully is a world-renowned artist. You can see CBS Sunday Morning did a big feature. He's mostly a painter. He grew up in Dublin. He ran with the street gangs in Dublin and then worked in a box factory in London then he went to a Van Gogh exhibit in London and got inspired to do art. And, 50 years later, he's done 2 pieces of art originally for Broadway for us, and the last one that's up by Columbia at 117, which is beautiful, gorgeous. And then the one that's going in on Saturday. You can, is going to be the last piece, right at Dante Park. And with that, there's going to be, the release of a public, it's a public release of a school curriculum that can go to public schools and private schools. But I want to say, we very much are interested to get the support of CB7 to get, this curriculum. It's really wonderful. It was done by Teachers College. It's so nice. It's gonna be in a bound book. The hope is that we'll get a new generation of kids, just like Sean Scully will, learned when he was, running in the streets of Dublin, that art can be a way to change your life. It's interesting. So all of these objects are stacked objects. He worked in a box factory where they were just stacking corrugated boxes and, you'll see a lot of his artwork is the same. It's sort of abstract expressionism. And he's a great guy. We're hoping that he's contributed a lot of his own resources to this. 64th Street, 72nd Street is the real interesting one. If anyone's noticed it, it looks, it's be called sleepers because it's the English term for the railroad ties, and he's put that in. And then at 79th Street, a really elegant design, and each of these is curated through the Listen galleries. And we're just excited that, it's not just going to be static art. And going forward, what we want to do is make sure that what we program on the Broadway malls is felt by the communities, whether it's horticulture, whether it's art, volunteer, programs. We're doing a volunteer program in October with West 72nd Street Block Association. If you check my last name, you might know how we got that, but my wife was a former board member. So we're going to be teaching, how to properly care for the street trees. And that's one of our visions, is to extend out to street trees, both on Broadway, but also, to basically use the malls as the spine for the West Side. And any community organizations that are interested in getting tips on horticulture, taking care of street trees, I gotta tell you, perennials, no more annuals. The annuals just die. I'm nice to that, but perennials that don't need as much water, we really hope, 90% of our funding comes from private sources, and as we were saying with Riverside Park, the key is you get the funding. We are not a conservancy and we're not a bid. So everything we do is like an annual basis of finding foundations. And I think we're moving much more towards, the grants that allow us to do, larger scale, planting.
To what extent do you have irrigation? Not anywhere?
No, and that's another, that's
It's
a
being
great.
put in Verdi Park is
Yeah,
great
when they-
innovation there.
Yeah, the problem for us is the subway.
Yes, of course.
And, and it's one thing that I learned is that we actually, right now, we hire a water truck that comes in and, they do feed it from the hydrants, but in time, we'd like to see, if we could, buy our own truck, do our own watering, have it be an electric truck, not a diesel truck, all of those things
Get a
are.
robot to do it.
Get a robot to do it, or, I'd like to do it because that'd be more relaxing, but yeah. Yeah, but, these are all sort of our long-term vision,
The curriculum will also be online, so it'll be available to view and download. Yeah, alongside the physical copies.
I think we'll definitely be in touch with Alex, Max, in our office.
Yes. Yes.
They can spread the word.
Mhm.
I think we'll send it to our YEL co-chairs as well. So we can definitely help spread the word.
Thank you very much, yeah.
And it will also be at the committee meeting on Thursday, which is the education.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we're gonna, I talked to them too.
We try to say hello.
Yeah.
But really, if folks want to go out onto 83rd Street and go check it out, and we can take you in, to see them all.
I went to the event that happened, I think, earlier in the summer on the 160.
yeah,
And then Ian Olson took us.
Yeah.
And it's a very nice opportunity to do something very different. If that opportunity does
Yeah.
come again, do
Oh,
let
yeah.
us know.
Oh, yeah,
as a board.
but you have our number, you call us up and say,
Oh,
hey,
okay.
I wanna go see, we'll be happy to do that.
That's very nice, thank you.
Sure.
Oh,
Congratulations on the.
Yeah.
How long is the installation up for? It will.
Oh, yeah, it was
Yeah.
just, March.
So March of
So March of 25, yeah.
Nobody's graffitied it. I mean, I was looking at
I-
172nd Street saying, oh
No,
my God.
157 got graffitied, but I think the artist was into it. It's like real New York City graffiti. That's a memorial to 9/11, the one on 157.
Oh.
Like a tiny plant, yeah.
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 The
But-
exhibits are amazing. Thank you so much. It's like, it like, it's like almost like an abstract representation of the city.
Mhm.
Ties it all together. It's like diverse, but
Yeah,
different, at the same time. So it's very cool.
yeah, and it's color and it's form
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and they
Yeah.
seem very approachable, but when you get close, they're actually pretty big and it's like, it's a lot of things. And that's what the curriculum is, to help children learn about body and space and motion and, so.
Well, let us know when and if
Yeah.
you can address the 96th Street
Yes.
nightmare.
Yeah.
It really is. It's stunningly horrible. It's
And-
shocking.
We love our friends at Parks, but if you guys help, it's fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Natasha and Daria?
He's gonna.
Natasha and Daria, can you hear me?
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, when you think about Herman.
I will.
Alex is talking to us.
Oh, Alex, sorry.
Matt from the Parks Department had a hand raised, so I just wanted to draw attention to
Matt Genrith?
Oh, Matt.
Hey, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. So here, let me put my, so I just wanted to, address some of the concerns about 96th Street. Some of the challenges there are the, increasing heavy bird feeders there. But we are, it's a building that we're looking to try and restore. The building does have some issues with, water, and the mortars need to be repointed, but that is something that's on Parks radar, that we're looking at trying to improve conditions there. So, the building is, accessible, but along with restoring it, I know they're going to try and figure out how we can help improve the conditions there with the many pigeons that are in the area that make it unpleasant.
Unusually.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
I'm happy to, continue a conversation. We can play around.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any new business? Any old business?
I actually do have announcement I wanted to make. And I sent the flyer to the community board earlier today. But I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that there's a movie night at Matthew P. Sapoline this Saturday, starting at dusk around 8 o'clock or so. So please let all the families and the community know. And the movie is going to be Family Camp that they will be showing this Saturday.
Where is it? Matthew P. Sapelin, playground.
Where is that?
That's cute.
That's on 70th between West End and Broadway.
Oh, okay. Oh, West End and Amsterdam.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt.
And you know what, we thank our co-chairs for all the adjustments and the wonderful team and everything.
Yes,
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
So much.
Take something home with you. All right.
Till the next one.